Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Ksubas daf Nun Vav. We're going to begin on Nun Vav of an Aleph, 4 lines from the top. So we're learning in our Mishnah, the Machlokas, when it comes to a woman whose husband divorced her or he died, and it was only during the time of Erison, is she entitled to only the mud and the Masayim of the Ksuba? Because we say that the Umdana is going basar the chibas bia, which didn't take place, or do we say instead that she'll even get the tosefes, the additional monies, because the whole notion of giving this is because of a kruvi daita, and because he came close to her emotionally, so that takes place b'shas kedushin, and therefore she would even get the tosefes. So in this Gemara says, Yosef Rab Chanina, Kamei de Rabbi Yanai, so he said that halacha is in accordance in our Mishnah like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So I'm like, Puk, go out, kori korech lebra. Go and say this outside, because they ain't halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Amrav Yitzchak bar Abdimi Mishim Rabbeinu halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. The halacha is like him. Amrav Nachman Mishma halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, but Rabbi Nachman Didei Amr in halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. When the Adoi Mishmei the Rabbi Nachman Amr halacha Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, V'afgav de Lot Rav Nachman, even though, again, Rav Nachman disagreed. Rav Nachman said the halach is not like him. The armor kol daina did dayin Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Any dayin, he said, any person who holds like him, even though this is totally incorrect, if you pass like him, so and so shall be. The halacha l'maisa, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So it's back, forth. Eventually, Alaskana, Talacha is like Rabbi Elazar. So again, based on our Mishnah, again, if let's say the time of Erison, Rabbi Elazar says Minasuin she gets everything, but Min Erison she only gets the Manam Masayim, and because he says Shul Kasava El Almanas Kaitza. So we say that's what we pass like. That if it was B'Shas Erison, she will only get the Mana Masayim and not anymore. Okay. Weiter. So now the two dots. Boy Robin. So he asked the question, Nichlas ul Chuppah. So if it's all totally, let's say, on Chibas Bia, so what if they actually did Chuppah? However, it's just V'Nivula. They just didn't end up having Bia yet, and then he dies. Mahu. Chibas Chuppah Kaina or Chibas Bia Kaina. What exactly is it? I understand not Shas Erison, but let's say, again, Chuppah took place. So maybe that is enough. So Tashma, the Tani Rav Yosef, Shalo Kasabla El Al Chibas Laila Harishain. It's totally on the first night. Now, if you want to tell me that the chiba of being married with chuppah is enough, Hadi Amr Laila Harisha. That's why it says the first night. It sounds like what? It's a one-time thing. A person has bia once and not anymore. So I understand chuppah. It's a one-time thing. It's a nice night, beautiful wedding. But if it's talking about chimas bia, why would it say once? Velamai, what? Chuppah. Are you telling me the chuppah can only be at night? Chuppah b'layla isa b'yom leisa doesn't make any difference. Chuppah could be done anytime during the day or night. So that can't be what it means. Layla rishon is daflam chuppah. What time according to your reasoning? Bia b'layla isa b'yom leisa. Is it true that bia can only be during the night, but not during the day? That you're allowed to have bia with your wife in the day, as long as it's dark inside the room. Halukasha. Just telling you that that's the norm of when a person has tashmish at night. That's all it means. So since there's a link between after chuppah, we do yichud as bia, so therefore because of that, That's happens at night. Bia happens at night, so it means chuppah is also at night. It doesn't mean that chuppah has to be at night. So boy Rav Ashi nichnas lo chuppah appears mahu. So what happens if, let's say, you did chuppah, however, she was a nida, and therefore you couldn't have bia with her, and then the man died. If you want to say the chuppah is kaina, chuppah de chazal bia, maybe it's only because he's going to have bia soon. Maybe, again, because she's a nida, so chuppah alone is not, there won't be chibas bia. There's not going to be bia, so maybe there's not really an element of chibas chuppah. The notion that there's a chibas chuppah is because you know that shortly afterwards will be bia. But if she's a nida, which means she's obviously you can't have bia, so maybe not. Take. So we mentioned, which we mentioned also before this parak, that if he wants, he could write 200, then she can write a shumer, a receipt saying, yeah, with his kabalti, I was makabel 100. And Rameir says, no, you can't do that. That's considered to be a bias nos. It has to mamish be the 200. So in this, the Gemara says, "V'saber Yehuda the kaisvin shumer." Zmashma, the Rabbi Yehuda says that we write a receipt. That's what we allow. But Tanan, we learn not like that. It says in Baba Basra, Mi shapara mixas chayvoi. So a person paid up part of their loan. So let's say you owed $1,000 and you paid up a few $100s. So now this document isn't really accurate. So you have to write a new document. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer Yachlef, you should write a new star. It says Rashi Yichtav Shtar Acher. You should write a new one Kedei Chayv Hanishar, based on whatever is left as far as how much you owe. V'ikar Rishon. Then you rip up the first one, and that's it. V'lo Yichtav Shoiver. You don't write a receipt. Because now he's going to have to hold on to this receipt to prove that he actually paid up some of it. And we're not going to require that. So we see right off the bat, Rabbi Yehuda holds he don't write a shover. So how come over here he does? So Rabbi Yirmiyah says, okay, but in this case, there's a couple answers to this question. First answer is, Kishishovarta mitocha. What does that mean? So, Rashi says that the shuber is b'toicha ksuba, atzma. It's actually written in the ksuba. Yichtav shuber, that's where it's written. V'hi amar b'fanena his kabalti chetzia. That she has a ksuba for 200, and in the ksuba itself, she writes this notion that I collected 100. The time of my Amar Rabbi Yehuda in Kais and Shuver, the reason why you don't write a receipt, so that the borrower won't have to hold on to it and guard it from it being destroyed by mice. To eat mirkav, because if it gets rotten, hadar high, v'gavi shtari kuli, it'll collect the whole $1,000. Here, it's actually written in the star itself. So therefore, it's why it's not an issue. By Omer Field Tema, even if it was not written in there, nonetheless, in the case of our Mishnah, a shuvah is written. Rabbi Yehuda is not concerned about achbarim over here, because Bishul Hassam, I understand over there, Vadi Pare, he definitely collected Dilma Mirchas, Tivarta. Maybe his receipt will get lost. He'll take out his star, and he'll collect a second time. So over there, there's that potential concern that may happen. So therefore, we rip it up and rewrite a new one. If she'll say, if I keeps it safe, it's safe. If it's not kept safe, then he will have lost himself. So here really you were to pay 200 anyways. So if you lose this receipt, you'll go back to your original chiv of 200. So that is the distinction. Fine. Bishlam Abaye, so according to Abaye, which was the second answer we just said. Why? Because lo katani shovar ta mitocha. It doesn't say that he wrote the shover inside the ksuba. Oh, Rabbi Yomi might tell Lomer Kabaya Gezerah shover the hacha at the shover the alma. We're concerned if you write a receipt here, then you're going to write a receipt elsewhere, and therefore maybe you wouldn't be allowed to write a receipt here either. Now, time of the kosfale, the whole reason is because he wrote this thing down and it was all stipulation of all peloi. However, if it was just a condition which was said by mouth, that would not work because you're being masnal mashakasu b'Torah. You're making a condition against what the Torah says, that you're giving less than the 200 requirement. We know that he actually holds that if you make such a condition on a monetary issue, even though it goes against the Torah, it's not a problem when it comes to money. The Sanya, I'm going to marry you, which is great, but there's a little downside in your part. Giving you nothing. You're not going to get close to me. You're not going to get any food. We're not going to have any chiyuv of marital relations. It is a good marriage. However, tonight batal. Meir says it's a marriage, and the condition you said afterwards is worthless because you don't have the ability to do so because you're being masna mashikasa b'Torah. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer b'davar shebamon tanai kayim. Now, when it comes to at least the money aspect, not the bia, but the money aspect, you can make such a condition, and therefore, in both cases, everyone holds that they're married. But in this situation, even though it was al peh, even though it was said by mouth, nonetheless, it would still work when it comes to the dinim of mammon. So the question is, why does our Mishnah say that he wrote this down? This whole thing was stipulated. He wrote it, and there was a hiskabalti, that she accepted it. Even if it was just said orally, that should be sufficient. Our answer is, so normally, when it comes to a din deraisa, we are when it comes to this, he says it works. Tanai Kaim, it's not a problem. He's lenient. However, when it comes to a din derabanan, because sometimes people may be lax in those halachos, so therefore the Chachamim made an extra stringency regarding this. So this is question 3. Also, Chachamim chizik lived Rabbi Yehuda delo mahani tanai lehipatim iksuva kechol davar shebamamoin. Even though normally he holds a davar shebamamoin, you could make this condition even orally al peh. However, not in this case because ksuba is d'Rabbanan, and therefore it cannot be done al peh, and then it needs to be written down. If that's the case, that when it comes to din d'Rabbanan, we're extra strict. Hari paris d'Rabbanan, v'lo d'Rabbanan chizuk. Paris is also d'Rabbanan. Paris, Rashi says, is referring to the nechse malug, the possessions that she brings into the marriage, in which she keeps the karka, he gets to eat the fruits. So that is a din d'Rabbanan. Says Rashi, Hai the Baal Oichan, the reason why the husband can eat the fruits, to kanta d'Rabbanan he. So let's see this. Did not. He can eat the fruits of the fruits, says Rashi. If he says, I don't have anything to do with your possessions, nonetheless, we say, uperisein oichelhu, uperiperos moicher peros v'loikech karka. He can take those periperos, sell them, and purchase land. Shehilu karen v'hu oichel peros. So he says, Rabbi Yehuda says, l'oilam hu oichel periperos. You can sell the fruits of the fruits. Ad sheyichtav la, unless it's written din devarim einim nechasayich. I don't have anything to do with your possessions, and uperisein uperis perisein ad oilam. If you specify that I don't want to have anything to do with your land, not your fruits, not the fruits of the fruits forever, so then you're obviously stuck. However, otherwise, a person could sell these fruits, and it's not a problem as we continue to nun vavim bebeis. But kaimulan my kaisev oimer. It doesn't mean he actually has to physically write it down. All he has to do is make a condition and say it. So says Rashi, Alma tanai tana. The condition is a good condition, even though this is a din d'Rabbanan. So how come when it came to a ksuba, we said, it has to be written down. If you're going to make the stipulation of not giving 200, and she has to say eskabalti or write it down, maybe it is part of the shubur, written into the ksuba, so it has to be written down. Alpez not enough, because also chachamim chizik mishal Torah divreihem yosem mishal Torah. So why don't we say the same thing when it comes to the peros? That we say that when it comes to nichsti malug, the din is that he's allowed to eat from these nichsti malug. And even if he made this condition, and we're not concerned that this is something which is din d'Rabbanan. So Rabbi says, yesh ksuba. Every woman there's a ksuba. V'lo l'chol yesh peres. Not all men have the right and the ability to eat fruits from nechsim malug. Milsa shchich of the Rabban Chizuk. Milsa shchich of the Rabban Chizuk. So it's an interesting svara. That's true. Even though it's a din d'Rabbanan, this continues question 3, Madul asu kain gam peros, and the answer is because peros is basically a milsul shchicha. So it's something which is not shchiach, so we don't need chizuk. We don't have to make a big deal about something which isn't common. There's no need to make strengthen things and make all these different rulings if it's something which is not going to happen so often anyway. Mashenko when it comes to a ksuba, which is something which everyone has, so therefore in that situation we are going to be more strict when it comes to dine d'Rabbanan. Okay, so let me just see if there's another question over here. Okay, I did, but let's continue. Hari chamarim. How about when it comes to donkey drivers? Deshchiche. This is something which is a common fact. But even though it's going to also be the Rabbanon, the Chachamim don't make a chizuk there, even though it's a milsa d'shchiach. How do we see this? Did not. When it comes to hachamorim shenichnas le'ir, so you have these drivers, they enter into a city. V'yomer echad mehem shali chadash shel chaver yashan shali and masukin v'shel chaver masukin ein nemanim. Rabbi Huda omer nemanim. So again, just focusing on the first of Tanna Kama. So this seems to be a little bit of a problem. This has to do with being chayesh l'goymlin. Why are these people walking into a city and saying, "Oh, my product is horrible. You should buy it from this guy"? Aren't you trying to make some money? So it's possible that enu nemanim, that they're not going to be believed to say, "Oh, this is good. This is not good. The Trumas Meister is separated from his, but not by mine," because probably they are in cahoots with one another. So I'm going to say this today, bad about my product. Everyone's going to be, wow, let's go to this other guy. And then next city, you'll say my spiel. You'll say it about my product, so this way I'll be able to get. So that's according to the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't make a difference. They're believed to the point that you don't have to separate Trumas and Meisers. It's considered to be Masukan. And actually we believe them. Now, l'chayra, this whole notion is a din d'Rabbanan, referring to demai, and even though it's something which is shchiach, we still find that it works. So Rabbi b'demai the divreihem of the Rabbanan Chizuk. Okay, let's just hear the teretz and maybe we have to go back to the question. So Abai says, "Vadi divreihem." If it's something which is midrabanan and it's vadai, like by ksuba, so that's something which is for sure there's a derabanan connection of the Rabbanan Chizuk. So then they do make a chizuk. Suffik divreihem, which of course is demai, which the whole notion is suffik if they took off trumas and maasros. Okay, so I said it correctly. So when it comes to the dinim of Damai, the reason why Rabbi Huda says Nemanim is because it's, even though it's true, it's a Durabanan, and it's something which could be Shriach, but nonetheless, the whole thing is a suffix. So it's almost like suffix Durabanan Lakula, and therefore that's the reason why we can be lenient. Rabbi Omer b'Damai Hekilu. When it comes to Damai, we're lenient. As Rashi says, because the Roiv Ami Arts Master in Hain, because most of them will have separated Meiser anyway. So we don't really have to concern ourselves to be additionally strict regarding this. Let's look at question 4. I'm not sure if I did this yet. Hachamarim shenichnos le'ir be'omer echad mehen shali chadash perish Rashi b'shem mafarshim chadash mishum oimer. Okay, I gotta look in this Rashi. Mahai hadechia shadacha Rashi es pirushim. So the question is it when it says new, is it referring to like the chadash versus yashan, or is it just talking about it's nice, it's fresh new grain? So let's look in Rashi. This is apparently just solid Rashi over here, which I would have skipped over, which I'm glad I didn't. So let's look at this Rashi. Shali chadash vayashan toiv mimenu. Old is better. Shahachadash, if it's new, adayin enu yavesh kol tzarach. It's not dry up, and it's not so good. Therefore, that's what it means. V'yesh mefarshim mishum oimer. Some say it's because of it's chadash. You can't eat it. You have to wait till the grain is new. V'la milsehi. We say that's not the pshat, because the imkain the metaretz b'damai hekelu. So we say, we're leaning by damai. So hatinach damai chadash. Damai chadash ma'il kameimar. So we don't say the same thing. We say by trumas ma'asim, not by chadash and yashan. But od v'lomatzinu shenechshnu ami aretz al iser chadash. We never find that we're concerned that amaratzim are going to be lax when it comes to dinim of chadash, new and old grains. V'nachna el mishum ein nemanim de damai. V'vaseinu ashmina de'afagav den mishkach la with the chabri now mi b'milia acharnasa. Neman al damai dechashin l'goyman, as we said before. So basically, the reason why I can't be talking about oimer is the Gemara says it's because we're lenient by damai. But it doesn't mean that we're lenient when it comes to chadash, and also we don't find anywhere that amaratzim are nechshad on the iser of chadash. Okay, so that's a unbelievable question, which is a total Rashi, which I almost skipped over. So that's a great question that was there, helped me learn a new piece of the Rashi, which I wouldn't have learned otherwise, maybe. Okay, Rabbi Huda Omer Kol HaPoiches. Rameir says no. Any person who has less than 200 zuz, it's considered to be his nus. So kol poiches afil batana, even if let's say a condition was made that I'm going to marry you for less than 200, it won't matter. Says Rashi, alpha she goivel l'basayif, even though she collects at the end, din tanai kayim, it doesn't help. Afil hachi kivadim ikara asne, since he made this condition, karle bil's nus. Mishum de mishas bia lo havi samcha daita ksuba. At the time that he had been with her, she was not samech on this. Al maksavar tanai bottle. The isla, the tanai's bottle, what he said is worthless, and therefore she actually will still get the 200 anyway, regardless. Since it was said you're not going to only get 100, lo samcha daita. She wasn't saimich on that. V'havilah bi'laso bi'lasnos. Ayba Hashem lo Rameir di'emer kol masnal mashakasu b'tayra tanai bottle hamid rabbanan tanai kayim. You should say it's only when it comes to din deraisa that it's bottle, but once in the rabbanan's kayim, the ksuba's the rabbanan, right? No, because Rameir ksuba deraisa. Rameir actually holds the din ksuba's deraisa, and therefore we're strict according to him. When it comes to Kol Masha Wasam B'Torah, Tanai's bottle on a din deraisa. Okay. Tanya Rameir Oimer Kol Poiches El B'Sul Mamasayim Amana Memana Hari Zu Bil's Nus. So we said it has to be that amount and cannot be less. Rav Yosi Oimer Rashai. Rav Yosi says it's permitted. It says Rashi Vafilu Al Pen Nami Tanai Kayim. It doesn't even have to be written down according to him. Even if it was a condition that was said verbally. He could write the ksuba for 200. And she could say, I got 100. Which means Rabbi Yehuda holds it also work, but I think this has to be written down. Rabbi Yosi holds Rabbi Yosi Rishai. Does Rabbi Yossi really hold like that? Or minhi ein oising ksuvas isha metaltalin. Now, when it comes to ksuvas isha, there's no din that she can collect from metaltalin. It has to be only carcass, says Rashi. In miyachdim metaltalin ksuba. When it comes to metaltalin, that's not set aside for the ksuba. Netikan ha'olam. What's the tikkun olam? Rashi says, Shemi yovdu or yivchasu demehen. It can go down in value, or the item can get lost, and therefore all of a sudden that which was miyachid for the ksuba is gone. So there has to be only land. Rabbi Yossi, v'chima tikkun olam yesh bezu. How is that a form of tikkun olam? Well, ein ktsuvim, it's not set. Upoichasin, and it can go down. Says Rashi, ein demein ktsuvim oylamis. Demikri moizli hilkach pa'amim shepoichasim michtei ma sheshomu. So Tanakama nami ein oisin kaimer. The Tanakama also says you can't connect it to metaltalin. Elav hachakamer. The Tanakama means like this: Memedibar mamorim bishaloi kibol lav achrayis. When do we say that you cannot be miyached metaltalin as if you're not mekabel achrayis because you can get lost? Of a kibul of achrayis oisin. If you're mekabel achrayis, so you could still do it, because if it gets lost or loses value, doesn't make any difference. She can still get the correct amount from the ksuba because there's achrayis on it. You also have Yosel Meir, no ki kibel olav achrayis my oisin. When these mekabel achrayis on it, b'loy ein ksubim poichasin hashta. Right now, it's not going down. So mahasam the dilma pichse, maybe it'll go down value. Chayesh Rabbi Yossi. So hachana vade kopachasa lo kol shekain. In this situation, the ksuba is not 200. She's saying hiskabalti. Why would he say that that's acceptable? So hachi hashta hasam lo yada the tachil. Over there, she doesn't know it's going to go down. She doesn't know. But hachi yada v'kamachla. Over here, she is the one saying hiskabalti, and then she's saying it's okay. So that's why it works, and therefore that's why over in this case, Rabbi Yossi says that if you would say, if you write 200 and she says hiskabalti mana, that it works because she knows and she was moichel the rest. Mash in kain, when it comes to this situation where there's nothing on her part of saying I'm moichel, so in that situation the din is that there is no din of being miyached on metaltalin, because it can go down in value, and therefore because of that it will not work. Here we're going to stop there. Let's see, maybe we'll get a couple questions in. Question TA10. Matai Matzinu, when do we find the Svirling Rameir, the Rameir holds, the Havi Bilas Nus, Afal Pi Sheshla Be'emes Masayim. Even though really 200 was given, nonetheless, it's still Bias Nus. So it says, O Shehisna B'Shas Nesuin, B'Tanai Bottle, O Kishi of the Shtar Ksubasa, or when the Shtar Chov was lost. Perish Rashi Duhadin Imlo Kosvu Shtar Ksuba, if the Shtar Ksuba was not written at all. So here it's considered Bibias Nus, TA10, somehow I got this half right, Kishnehista Mishnas Nesuin. They made this condition at the time of the Nesuin. Alternatively, that the star got lost. So in that situation, Rameir holds that it is batal. That the din is that that's considered to be a bias nus. Okay. Right, so kol poiches afil b'tanoi. Okay. TB 11. Mishapara makes us chayva, and this is what I meant to do before. So someone who paid off half of their loan, nun vav amud aleph. My time Rabbi Yehuda the achlef lo yichtav shover. So why does he say don't write the shover? Ve'eza oifen might Rabbi Yehuda. So TB 11. So the reason for this is because time Rabbi Yehuda shlul hara koyach halayva shitzach lishmar shover min achbarim, which this is Rashi says is cleanly as well. Time of Mayam Rabbi Yehuda ein koisen shover mishum do itzrach label shover min achbarim. However, ve'im kaisef hashuber beguf hashtar moide. However, if it's actually written in the or kishashaybra mitaycha that the shuber is inside the ksuba, then certainly there is no reason to be concerned. And there hacha lekel mecha shalhachi, because you don't have to worry that the shuber is going to get lost or get ruined because it's in the ksuba itself. Ad kan.